Camera caught the little girl scolding the husky. The reason will left you speechless. When the security camera captured a tiny girl standing toe-to-toe with a full-grown husky, everyone thought it was a cute moment. They were wrong. Her furious scolding, his guilty stillness, and what he tried to fix afterward revealed a bond deeper and more dangerous than anyone realized. Until the lamp fell. Before we begin, make sure you're part of this journey. Hit subscribe so you never miss these real, emotional stories. Tap like so YouTube pushes this video to more viewers, and tell us your dog names in the comment box. Let's start the story. Emma had been saying the word no for only 3 weeks, yet she used it like she owned the whole world. She said it to her toys, to the walls, to her mom when she didn't want vegetables, and even to her own reflection. But today was different. Today she used it on Shadow, the newly adopted husky, who had no idea how much trouble he was in. The morning started simple. Emma sat on the carpet with a pile of wooden blocks, building a crooked tower with the full seriousness of a toddler doing world-changing work. Shadow sat nearby, watching her with his icy blue eyes, ears twitching every time she giggled. Then, without warning, he stretched, lifted a paw, and accidentally nudged the base of the tower. The entire stack collapsed. Emma froze. Shadow froze. Then Emma's tiny lips trembled. "No!" she shouted, pointing at him like a furious little judge. Shadow tilted his head, confused. He tried to sniff the fallen blocks, but Emma stomped her foot and let out a dramatic cry that echoed through the living room. To anyone else, it was a tiny accident. To her, it was betrayal. Mom rushed in, scooped Emma up, tried to calm her, and placed her favorite stuffed bunny into her hands. But Emma pushed it away, glaring directly at Shadow. The husky lowered his head, ears back, as if embarrassed. Mom had to step away for a moment, leaving them alone. And that's when the camera caught everything. Emma walked right up to Shadow, barefoot, pink dress swaying, tiny brows furrowed in the most serious expression her little face could make. She stood inches from his muzzle, staring straight into his blue eyes. Shadow didn't move, didn't blink, didn't step back. Emma lifted her hand again. "No, no, no," she repeated, each one sharper than the last. It wasn't just scolding. It was heartbreak in toddler form. Shadow swallowed, lowering his body slightly. He wasn't scared. He wasn't guilty in the human sense. But something in him recognized the sadness in her tiny voice. Something old, something from his past. Because Shadow hadn't just been a random adoption. He came from a shelter 3 weeks earlier. Before that, he belonged to an elderly man who lived alone in a small apartment. A man who had died quietly in his sleep. Shadow lying next to him, nudging him for hours, not understanding why he wouldn't wake up. When rescuers arrived, Shadow wouldn't leave the man's side. The shelter staff said Shadow stayed pressed against the old man's coat every night, waiting for footsteps that would never come back. He had known grief. He had known loss long before Emma ever pointed at him and yelled, "No!" So now, staring at this tiny girl who looked at him with red eyes and a trembling chin, Shadow didn't do what most dogs would: step away. He stayed still, completely still, as if taking responsibility. Emma babbled angrily, waving her arms, pointing to the pile of fallen blocks, repeating the same small, frustrated sounds. It wasn't language, but Shadow understood the meaning. You broke my thing. You hurt my feelings. The camera footage showed Shadow slowly lowering his head until his nose touched the floor. Emma stared at him, chest rising and falling with tiny, angry breaths. This wasn't cute. This wasn't a silly baby moment. This was a toddler confronting someone who mattered to her, someone she depended on daily, someone she trusted. Shadow let out a soft exhale through his nose. Not a whine, not fear, something closer to acceptance. Emma jabbed her finger toward the blocks again. "No, my tower." Her voice cracked. Shadow blinked slowly. Then, in one gentle movement, he stepped around her, walked to the scattered blocks, and nudged one with his nose. Emma's eyes widened. Shadow nudged another, then another. Then he tried to push 2 blocks together, struggling because his nose wasn't made for tiny wooden pieces. The camera captured him trying again and again, failing every attempt but refusing to stop. Emma's angry face melted. She stood silently, watching him try to fix what he ruined. Shadow nudged a block toward her foot and lifted his head slightly, as if saying, "I'm trying. I didn't mean to hurt you." Emma's tiny voice softened. "Shadow." He froze, ears rising. She crouched awkwardly, picked up 1 block, and placed it next to the one he pushed. Shadow wagged his tail once, slow, careful, hopeful. Emma reached out with both arms and pressed her face against his neck. A full toddler hug, no hesitation. Shadow stayed absolutely still, not daring to move a muscle. This was the moment that shocked everyone later. Not the scolding, not the angry no, but the fact that Shadow, a dog who had once watched his owner die helplessly, tried to rebuild something he broke, and that a toddler forgave him instantly. Mom walked in seconds later, confused by the sight of Emma clinging to Shadow as he gently nudged blocks around her feet. She didn't understand what happened until she reviewed the footage, and when she watched it, she realized something she had never seen before. Shadow wasn't just living in their home. He was forming a bond with a depth that couldn't be taught. A bond rooted in responsibility, guilt, instinct, and old grief that Emma unknowingly healed. For the next few days, Shadow stayed closer to Emma than ever. If she moved left, he moved left. If she waddled toward the sofa, he circled around her first. If she reached for something, he watched her hand carefully, almost suspicious of the world around her. Emma didn't mind. She liked the attention. She liked that he listened to her tiny voice. She liked that when she said "Shadow," he came immediately, tail wagging, as if she spoke with authority. It was like he decided after the block incident that she was now his responsibility, his job, his promise. But the real test came one afternoon when Mom went to fold laundry in the next room. Emma was supposed to stay in the living room with Shadow, watching a kids' show on the TV. Shadow lay beside her on the rug, still alert despite appearing relaxed. Emma hummed to herself, holding 2 wooden blocks and tapping them together. Then she spotted something small, something shiny, something she had never seen before. It was the edge of the tall floor lamp cable, a thin black wire tucked near the back leg of the couch. Normally hidden, but today it stuck out just enough to catch her attention. She dropped her blocks and stood up. Shadow's ears twitched instantly. He watched her carefully as she toddled across the carpet toward the couch. "Emma," he woofed softly. But she didn't understand the warning. She pointed at the wire and giggled. To her, it wasn't danger. It was treasure. She reached for it. And that's when the moment turned. The lamp was old. The base was stable enough, but the cable was caught under a chair leg in a way Mom hadn't noticed. When Emma tugged it, even slightly, the lamp rocked. Shadow shot to his feet immediately, muscles tensing, eyes locked on her hand. "Emma! Shadow! What's wrong?" Mom yelled from the other room when she heard the sudden movement. But she wasn't fast enough. The lamp lurched. Not violently, but enough to make the top section tilt forward. Emma didn't even look up. She was too focused on the wire she was pulling. Her small fingers curled around it again. Shadow launched forward with a force Mom had never witnessed in him. Not aggression, not panic, something sharper. Protective instinct mixed with the terror of memory, the memory of lying next to someone who never moved again, someone he couldn't save. He wasn't going to let that happen twice. He slammed his body between Emma and the falling lamp at the exact second gravity took over. His shoulder hit Emma gently but firmly, pushing her off balance just enough so she plopped onto her bottom instead of standing upright. Her eyes widened, confused. The lamp crashed onto Shadow's back with a heavy metallic thud. Emma screamed. Shadow didn't. He held still, legs bracing, absorbing the impact so it wouldn't hit her. His breath came out in one sharp exhale, but his eyes stayed fixed on Emma, as if checking, "Are you hurt? Did I protect you?" Mom sprinted into the room. "Oh my God! Shadow!" She grabbed the lamp, lifting it off him, her hands shaking. Shadow stepped away, body trembling slightly but tail wagging in short, sharp movements as he sniffed Emma all over, her arms, her cheeks, her tiny legs, checking her like a frantic parent. Emma didn't cry from pain. She cried from shock. She wrapped her arms around his neck again, burying her face in his fur. "Shadow, Shadow," she repeated between sobs. Mom sank to her knees, her breath broken. She had seen everything. Not the full moment, but enough to understand, enough to shake her to her core. Shadow nudged Emma's head, licking her cheek, whining softly. He didn't care about himself. He cared only about the little girl who had once scolded him like a tiny adult, the girl who forgave him, the girl he now guarded with the desperation of someone who had lost before and refused to lose again. Mom checked his back while keeping one hand on Emma. The lamp had hit him hard, harder than she expected, but it left only a light swelling and a small patch of raised fur. Nothing broken, nothing bleeding. Shadow stood strong. But something in him changed. He kept circling Emma after that, never letting her wander far, watching every step with the seriousness of a trained guardian. Emma noticed, too. She'd shout, "Shadow, come!" every 5 minutes, making sure he stayed close. He always did. That night, after Emma fell asleep on the couch with her hand on Shadow's back, Mom reviewed the camera footage again. First the block incident, then the lamp crash. She watched the way he nudged the blocks for Emma, the way Emma pointed at him and scolded him like she was the grown-up, the way he accepted it without moving. And she watched how he threw himself in front of falling metal without thinking twice. It hit her harder than she expected. Shadow had been grieving when he came into this home. He had been carrying old pain no one could see. He had been unsure where he belonged. But the moment Emma scolded him, really scolded him, something clicked inside him. She wasn't just a child to him. She was the person he chose to protect, the person he needed, the person who, without knowing it, healed something broken inside him. Mom wiped her eyes, staring at the paused frame of Shadow covering Emma with his body. "We don't deserve this dog," she whispered. The next morning, Emma toddled up to Shadow, placed both hands on his cheeks, and said softly, "Good boy." Shadow didn't move, didn't blink. He just stared at her the same way he did on the day she scolded him, steady, loyal, ready to take responsibility for her again. The camera caught the scolding. The camera caught the crash. But it wouldn't need to catch what came next. Because from that day forward, anyone who saw Emma and Shadow together understood one thing. She wasn't just scolding a dog that day. She was choosing the one creature in the world who would never let anything happen to her. If this story moved you, don't leave without supporting the channel. Like the video to help more people see these powerful moments. Comment your thoughts below. Every word helps us grow. And hit subscribe so you never miss the next emotional real-life story that will stay with you long after it ends.